morning, everyone. I am Praveen, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of Information Technology. And our today's agenda is about the types of service models, cloud service models, and what are the different models we are going to discuss about this one. So, the cloud service models are classified into two types, as we have discussed in the last video, right? One talking about the deployment models and the other one is talking about the service models. And the agenda of today's class is to discuss about the cloud service models. So the cloud service models are basically classified into three types: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So let us see what are these different service models and what is the difference between these three service models. So which cloud service is suitable for you? So before going to set up the cloud environment, it is very important to understand our business requirement, and according to our business requirement and the project requirement, we need to confine with any one of the cloud service setup, right? Whether we want to go with infrastructure setup, or we want to go with the platform setup, or with the software setup. Means we want to take infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So before going for any model, we need to understand the basic business requirement, and according to that we need to select one of the service model. So which cloud service is suitable for you? If your business needs a virtual machine, opt for the infrastructure as a service. So when our business needs, if our organization certainly needs a virtual machine, then it is best to go with the infrastructure as a service is one option for making use of the cloud environment. Or if your company requires a platform for building the software products, pick platform as a service. Just like when we want to make use of the platform what is been already existing with the cloud service provider, we want to develop some application and to deploy that application on the cloud, then we'll be making use of the platform as a service. And next is the software as a service, where if our business doesn't want to maintain any IT equipment, then choose software as a service, where we won't be making use of any kind of IT setup, just simply making use of the service being provided by the cloud service provider according to the requirement. Okay, so we'll be making use of the software as a service at that point of time. So let us move with the infrastructure as a service, where infrastructure as a service is a cloud service that provides basic computing infrastructure. Okay, so it provides the basic computing infrastructure in order to make use of the service, and the service are available on pay for what you use model. So you need to pay and you need to make use of that one when you, right? So which is nothing but the pay as you go model. And infrastructure as a service providers includes Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Compute Engine are a few of the infrastructure as a service providers. Okay, and the main users of this infrastructure as a service are IT administrators. So do remember this point. Even though we have the three different types of service models: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, every service is going to be used by one of the experts in that particular area. Not that all the people belonging to the organization might be using that one. So in order to make use of infrastructure as a service, here we have the IT administrator who will be looking after this one. So here we have the infrastructures, products and services, where if you look into the Amazon Web Service being one of the infrastructure service provider, the service being given by Amazon Web Service is EC2, Elastic Compute 2. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute 2. Okay, and the next one being from the Microsoft, the infrastructure as a service being provisioned is the Azure, and we are going to call it as Microsoft Azure. And the one more is the Google who is providing the infrastructure as a service, and we are going to call it as the uh, GoGrid is one of the Google compute engine for provisioning the infrastructure as a service. So this is basically about infrastructure as a service. So it is basically the pay for what you use model. And now let us move on to the next one. Platform as a service, which provides cloud platforms and runtime environments for developing, testing, and managing the applications. So it allows software developers to deploy applications without requiring all the related infrastructure, and the users of this one are the software developers. So if you look into this one, it provides the platforms and runtime environments. So it provisions us a place where we can deploy the applications what have been developed by the users, and we can manage our applications in that particular platform. Okay, and the main users of this platform as a service are the software as the software developers, whereas the earlier one what we have seen, infrastructure as a service, the users are the IT administrators. Okay, and the different products and services being provisioned by the platform as a service. If you look into the Amazon web services, then here the EBS is the service being provisioned by the Amazon for platform as a service, and for from the Google end it is the Google App Engine. Whereas in the infrastructure as a service we have the GoGrid of the Google as the infrastructure as a service, but whereas here it is the Google App Engine. And the next one from the Microsoft being the Microsoft Azure for the platform as a service. Now let us move on to the next one. SaaS, which stands for the software as a service, where in SaaS cloud providers host and manage the software applications on a pay-as-you-go pricing model. All software and hardware are provided and managed by a vendor, so you don't have to maintain anything. And the users of this one are the end customers. Okay, do remember that the users of the platform as a service are the end customers, whereas in the platform as a service, the software developers, in the infrastructure as a service, IT administrators. Okay, so if you look into the software as a service products and services, here we have the different sort of services from the different service providers. One being the Microsoft Google, right? If you look into Google, we have the Google Docs, mails, Google Storage, the drives, okay, spreadsheets, and the PowerPoint, right? So Office 365 and the various Google apps are being provisioned as the software as a service. So this is the these are the three platform as a services being provisioned. So let us move on to the next one with the help of a scenario. So what is the difference between infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service? So let us move on to the on-premises one, where here we have the different services being are required on premises one. One being we have the different criteria: the applications, data, runtime, hardware, OS, virtualization, server, storage, and networking. All these things need to be managed by the software and hardware people when we select the on-premises one. This being one of the biggest hurdle in making use of the resources, because if something happens for on-premises one, the entire setup will comes down and the users cannot able to access any sort of services. So which is the on-premises one? The brown color represents here the services which need to be managed by ourselves, and the blue color represents everything being managed by the vendor. So as on the on-premises everything looks brown, the services which are nothing but the applications, data, runtime, middleware, OS, virtualization, server, storage, and network, these things will be managed by ourselves. Okay. And next, moving on to infrastructure as a service, a bit different from that of the on-premises one, where on this one, the applications, data, runtime, middleware, and OS being managed by us, whereas the virtualizations, servers, storage, and networking being managed by the cloud service provider or the vendor. Okay, so here half of the setup is being managed by ourselves and the other half being managed by the vendor, where the critical part relating to the virtualization of the resources, servers, storage, and networking being managed by the vendor, and the local things which relate to the applications, data, operating systems, and middleware being managed by ourselves. Next, moving on to the platform as a service, here the 20% of the services being managed by ourselves and the 80% being managed by the vendor. One being the applications and data are of our own being managed, and runtime, middleware, OS, virtualization, servers, storage, and networking being managed by the vendor. And next, let us move on to the software as a service and a bit to the platform as a service, where everything is being managed by the vendor itself, starting from the applications to networking. So this is the main difference between on-premises, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service scenarios. Next, let us illustrate this with the help of an example. Consider a task where you are planning to bake a cake. So I want to prepare a cake. So what are the options which I am left out with? Right? Let us see as per the scenario of infrastructure as a service, platform, and software as a service relating to this particular example. So if I want to make everything on premises one, so what I need if I want to prepare a cake at home? So what I need all are, I need a dining table, I need a water, electricity, oven, cake pan, flour, sugar, okay, butter, and eggs. Or you can go from the bottom to top also. We need the eggs, butter, sugar, flour, cake pan, oven, electricity, water, and dining table. Everything need to be managed by us if we are planning to prepare a planning to bake a cake at home. Right? So no intervention of any vendor from the outside. But when we want to go with any of the other services, let us see. So if I want to go with the infrastructure as a service with this particular example, right? So buy and bake. So I will purchase the resources, or I will purchase the requirements which are needed for preparing the cake, baking the cake. For an example, in our example, we have eggs, butter, sugar, and flour being purchased from the outside. And what I am going to manage at my premises is being the cake pan, oven, electricity, water, and dining table. Means here I have the provision where half of the things where I can get directly from outside, and the remaining need to be managed by me. Next, if I want to go with the platform as a service, then I have the provision of cake delivery, where here the egg, butter, sugar, flour, cake pan, oven, electricity being managed by the vendor, just like a kind of as we are seeing on a day-to-day basis, the Zomato and the Swiggy services being available. I'm going to order everything, and the required order will be delivered at my doorstep, and just I'll be making use of my dining table and water to have or to consume that particular food what I have been planning for. So this is the platform as a service is the example for the cake baking of the cake process. And next one being dine out, means software as a service, where I don't want to go with any sort of these things. I want to go with the software as a service, where simply I'll move out and I'll make use of the place where everything is readily been available, including the water and the dining table. Just like I'll go out for a restaurant and I order for everything, and everything comes onto my table. I'll make use of, I'll consume the resource what I have added, what I have been ordered, and simply I'll walk out by paying the amount for the service what I have been provisioned with. So this is a very simple and a good example in order to understand the differences between infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So here are a few examples of the infrastructure, platform, and software. One being the AWS, IBM Cloud is one of the cloud service provider. Google Cloud Platforms, Microsoft, VMware, and DigitalOcean are the a set of cloud service providers, whether it might be the infrastructure, software, or platform. Next, Amazon Web Service is a cloud service from Amazon. It provides services over the internet, and AWS services can be used to create and deploy any type of application on the cloud. And AWS uses the subscription pricing model, pay for what you use. So these are the basic differences between infrastructure, platform, and software as a service. Okay. So this is the today's class. Thank you everyone. In next class we'll see the life cycle of cloud computing. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.